I'm sorry about that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Holyoke Public Schools Committee meeting. It is January 23rd, and we are starting the meeting at 6:08 p.m. Can I please have roll call, please? Ms. Garcia?
Mayor Garcia,
Here.
Ms. LaFave,
Present.
Ms. Brunel,
Here.
Mr. Romero,
Here.
Ms. Tensi Williams,
Present.
Ms. Rivera Colon,
Aquí.
Ms. Feliciano, Mr. Wellahan,
Here.
Mr. Callamore,
Here.
and Ms. Wilson.
Present. Thank you, everyone. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry about the technical issues with my computer. So really quickly, I just want to go over a few things pursuant to the Mass Open Meeting Law, Chapter 30A, subsections 18 to 25, and Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. Notice is hereby given that there will be a regular meeting of the Holyoke School Committee, and as well pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I am hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting, and the meeting is being live streamed and run on the city's community TV channel. It is also that we are still able to hold meetings as well virtually. Because of that, we do have 2 members of the school committee that are on Zoom for tonight's meeting. So any votes will be through a roll call vote. And so we're going to go ahead and move into, and with that being said, only members of the school committee should have their videos on during the meeting. Anybody else, presenters or those that are coming to give explanations or discussions, those will have to remain off until it's your turn. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the first agenda item in order, which is the student showcase, which is Holyoke High School North. Is everybody here for it, or do we need more time? Okay.
So today we are going to be showcasing Holyoke High School North Campus. I'm going to be introducing Lori McKenna, who's the principal of Holyoke High North Campus, and she's gonna introduce and share about five different students, their experiences related to our academies and or our dual enrollment program. So, Lori McKenna.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here tonight with some awesome students. So what I thought would be a great thing to feature for Holyoke High School North Campus is about 6 years ago, we did a redesign plan where it came up with the motto of a pathway for every student. And I think there was a lot of confusion as to what does that really mean? What kind of opportunities are going to be for students on your campus? And so I think tonight what we're going to do is kind of be able to show people exactly what kind of opportunities there are and what kind of things students are able to engage with on our campus. You're going to hear some things about our academies, which are Community and Global Studies, Performing and Media Arts, and Engineering and Life Sciences. You'll hear some information about dual enrollment, as well as early college. So those are 2 kind of different things, even though it gives kids opportunities to college opportunities, they're different starting points, as well as our senior seminar capstone project, as well as our internships. So this will give you an idea of what high school redesign was all about and what it looks like as a student. So
hello, my name is Imani Matos. I am a senior at Holyoke High. I am an intern at Holyoke Medical School. I work in the emergency room. It is definitely a great opportunity as a student and a young person and somebody that is trying to get into the nursing program. I have been there. I started early November. Definitely very nerve wracking as a student, but the support there is amazing. It's awesome. The nurses there are really awesome. They talk you through everything, and learning different equipments and supplies there definitely helped me get into nursing programs. Actually, I got accepted into two nursing programs so far, Elms College and University of Hartford. And writing that on my college resume definitely helped get accepted. And this has definitely been a great opportunity as a student and someone that is trying to be a midwife. I personally know the supervisor there, and she treats me amazing. The opportunities there are super. I am also in the dual enrollment. I do Westfield Promise, and on campus, we go on campus to Westfield. The teachers there, the professors there are really great. They're amazing. They talk you through everything, and they not only treat you as a college student, but they also understand that you are in high school, so they take things very slow with you. They're very understanding. And you also get college credits. So I believe by the end of this second semester, I will have credits. Great for college. And definitely, this internship has helped me so much with getting into college, and having these college courses have definitely helped me get the credits I need and get into the next step that I'm looking for. Thank you.
You.
Hi, my name is Cam, and I'm a senior at Hoyokai in the Performing and Media Arts Academy. I transferred to the school in sophomore year during the pandemic, so that was a little difficult. But the being in the PMA Academy and like working with all the people that are there really helped me like find my place in high school. And with the help of teachers like Miss Brunel, who's the head of the theater company at Hoyokai, I was able to explore new things and discover all different types of art forms that I now love. And yeah, among the many types of art that I practice and enjoy, fashion has always been a particularly special passion for me. So I wanted to use my senior capstone project to focus on that field, and so I'm designing and creating my own mini collection because I want to be a fashion designer, and so this project is like a very essential part in my journey to getting where I want to be. And I've casted models, students at the school of all different grades and all different shapes, sizes, and everything to model the pieces. And I'm gonna be doing like a digital fashion show with a video, and at the end of the year it'll be ready. And by doing that, the video show, I felt like I could combine my sewing and designing skills with the skills I learned in like the theater and media classes that I've taken at Koyokai. And the piece that I brought just to show what I've been working on, it's a brown satin two-piece with white tulle, and yeah, it's gonna be worn in the show. That's it.
Hi, my name is Lakeisha Cubero, and right now I'm a senior. Um, so I started with the early college experience when I was a sophomore. My second semester, which was my first early college class, was criminal justice. And after that, I chose to take classes about humans, like how we interpret life or how we see the world, because I'm interested in changing the world. My first language is not English. So when I first got here, it was like very hard for me to see all these people doing the things I couldn't do because of the language barrier. And I feel like early college and all the things I've learned there and all the people I've met, like Maria Liz and Jules, which are some of the coordinators of the early college program, they have helped me a lot get around all this high school experience and all the issues, trauma that you can, of course, with the pandemic and everything that has happened here. Um, I feel like early college, like I said, have a lot of opportunities, and it has shown me how my future in college will be and how everything is gonna be alright, even though things are hard. And
Hi, my name is Camelia Cruz. I come up from the Holyoke High North Campus. This is my junior year in high school. I just came here to talk a little bit about the dual enrollment program, early college, and I also take AP classes up at the school. Um, First, I wanted to say that I started the early college program off my sophomore year. It was very hard for me because at first I wasn't a student who wanted to go to college. I just saw myself working a regular job after school, no plans ahead. But I have a brother named Johan Cruz who pushed me a lot. Yeah, that's my brother. Um, um, he goes now to Dartmouth up in North New Hampshire, so that's definitely a big inspiration for me. It was challenging just seeing how my future could be different now that I'm in such a strong and helpful program. It has helped me a lot with like wanting to know what I want to do, where I want to be outside of high school, and it's definitely brought a lot of attention on, the profession that I want. The support and everything that comes with the program is amazing. It's definitely given me a lot of guidance, like Jules, Maria Elise, the team up at HHS. Um, about the AP classes is definitely more of a struggle now that it's more work piled up on top of another, but it definitely gives you more time to learn how to use time management. Working two jobs while helping out my mom. It's just me, my mom, my sister at home. So it's definitely a struggle to make time for everything, but I somehow managed to do it with the help of McKenna and Mr. Cotto. I wouldn't be where I am today. Definitely helped me out with internships up at the high school that give students more of a place where they can learn how to work with other kids much smaller age, whether it's outside of school, during the school, and it also gives us, the student, a chance to pocket some money throughout the school year without having to, actually do anything. Mr. Cotto is a great mentor. Um, but yeah, thank you for listening.
So I just want to say that all of them said they really weren't, they were super nervous and really weren't sure what they were going to say, and they were like amazing, which just speaks to how awesome they are. I do also want to give a shout out to Mike Cotto, who was in the back there. He is our high school design lead. And with the pandemic, some of our redesign work took a bit of a dip, and we really needed someone to take control of that and get it back to where it needs to be, and he's doing a fantastic job with it. So thank you. I don't know if anyone has any questions for any of the students, but thank you for listening.
I'm looking up at the Zoom right now. I don't see hands raised there. Anybody have any questions or comments here? Okay. Ms. Wilson?
Yeah. So I've only heard from one. Ms. Matos mentioned that you're thinking of becoming a midwife, and so I'm just wondering. I'm just going to plug Elms because I went to Elms, so I just want to plug that. It's a wonderful school. It's close and far. That's what you make it. So how are you going to go about making your decision?
It's definitely a hard decision. Because I am someone that wants to be a little farther away from Holyoke.
Yeah.
But I also want to join a broad program because I definitely want to experience the world a little bit more. I was definitely interested in also being a travel nurse. But still making that decision as well. But I definitely know that I want to be in the healthcare. So
Wonderful.
Definitely want to do that. I'm a little bit indecisive with what I want specifically, but I know my passion is definitely working with people. I love working with people and helping women, children, anyone to be honest. And honestly, it's definitely a hard decision. I'm still waiting to hear from a little bit more colleges just to make that final decision. But whatever works for me money wise, what I feel like will work for me in the long run, definitely what I'm looking for.
You're a hard worker for sure, so I see great success in your future.
Thank you.
And then
I
anyone
have a
else have any plans that you're thinking of for post-secondary? Cool. Travel the world, right?
Oh, geez.
It's great. Fashion. Wonderful. Great. Great to hear, everyone.
Mr. Wellahan.
My cousin's been a flight attendant for 35 years, so she's still doing it. So that's a good career. The fashion designer, get up here. So you want to go to school for that? Is that you want to major in that?
Yes.
Okay,
that's my
so
plan.
you got to be prepared. You're gonna have your peers and your professors are gonna be critiquing your stuff, right? I like this. I don't like this. I like this. So I want you to be prepared for that. So
Yes.
so they're not trying to, when they critique it, they're not gonna say they don't like it. They're gonna offer improvements and maybe another way to do it. It's not necessarily isn't wrong, but it could be done something else. So I don't want you to get yourself down when that happens, because I know people that have followed that path, and that constant rejection kind of wears on them. So I don't want you to. So that might happen where they're critiquing your stuff. They're not doing it to be mean or anything. They're trying to do it just to help you and to achieve greater success. But I think you'll be great anyways. Okay.
Mayor Garcia.
I was just going to add some comments here because I like listening to the College Ready program and what it's doing. Just it breaks my heart even more to hear about the shutting down of the Northfield Mount Herman program, which I was a student of. You did your freshman, the Upward Bound program.
Can you guys ask them to talk into the mic?
Say all of that again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank
The Upward Bound program, I did it my freshman and sophomore year before it got shut down. It was a very good experience. It helped my brother and I get a perspective on how college would be. His junior year, he reclassed from Holyoke High and went and decided to go to Northfield Mount Herman. Did his junior, senior year there and graduated COVID year, which sadly he didn't have a graduation, but it definitely gave him a push to the Ivy League that he's at now.
That's my point, because you had no vision in going to college. You had said
At all.
earlier it wasn't my plan to go to college either when I was in high school. But Northfield, the Upward Bound program,
Pushes you a lot.
helped understand and engage even college applications, figuring out student aid and all that. But to know that you guys are kind of having that experience sort of by this College Ready program, taking credits and whatnot, it's great. The Pathway program also, the fact that you are a high school student, shout out to the Holyoke Medical Center.
Yes.
That's partnering with a school district to do that. We have to do more of that. Like the school district partnering with our local institutions, organizations, and businesses so that it gives kids those hands-on experience to understand, kind of that career readiness, preparing you mentally and what your future is going to be and your next steps. You really don't know. You're figuring it out as you go. But it's those kinds of experiences that offer our inner city youth the proper intervention they need to grow and overcome the challenges that might be going on in our community, because we're different here in the city of Holyoke comparatively to surrounding communities, specifically in those in much more affluent cities. And for our kids to have that kind of access and opportunities that they would have never thought or imagined, because not all of us live next door to directors and doctors and lawyers. You know, I think in turn you'll see a big difference as what we're seeing in front of us. There is a local business coming downtown the city of Holyoke called Paper City Fabrics. You know, he's going to be doing sewing classes in the back of the store, and you know, I hope that I can see you there engaged with that. But good job. We're very proud of you. Holyoke's proud of you, and we're a resource too. So if there's anything we can do to continue to support your efforts, always feel free to reach out.
I have to speak into the mic. I have Miss Tensley Williams and then Mr. Collmore.
Young lady, the medical student, what is your name again?
My name's Imani. Imani.
Imani. Did you say you work in the emergency room? Wow. And are you getting time pay?
Yes.
Excellent. And my word to every one of you is tenacity. Never, ever give up the ship. Don't give up and you are winners. Okay? And we're very proud of you. Welcome, sweetheart.
Thank you, Mr. Collmore.
To all the students that are thinking about traveling, it's very important to always remember you came from Holyoke High School in the city of Holyoke, and you want to look up and read more about the history of Holyoke, because it's fascinating about building in the canal systems, building the history of the city, the Skinner Mills, the paper mills that were here in the early 30s and the early 20s, that immigrants came from all over the world to Holyoke to learn how to make paper. The biggest silk mills in the world were right here in Holyoke, the Skinner silk mills and things like that. These are things you just glance through the history of Holyoke book and read a little bit about it, so that when you're traveling, you can say, hey, come visit the city of Holyoke, and you'll learn a lot about the history of the world.
Thank you, Mr. Collmore. Mr. Soto.
I just wanted to praise every single one of you. You guys did an amazing job today. When we put together the profile of a student in Holyoke, you guys embody every single aspect of that. One thing I've heard from every single one of you was, yes, it was hard, it was challenging, and that's part of our role as a school community, is to challenge you, because life comes with a lot of challenges. But I can already see that every single one of you are going to be leaving Holyoke High ready to face on life's challenges. So congratulations, you guys are amazing, and I wish you well in everything that you do.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Ms. Rivera Colon.
Thank you. One of the things that I want to say first is thank you to all the people who make this possible, because this is a really incredible undertaking. So thank you to everybody who contributes to that. I also want to say that I want to highlight the fact that there are the challenges, but you could hear from many of the different students that there's also about mentorship, right? So creating these opportunities that allow for students to have access to mentors who really push them and really challenge them so that they can actually rise above any standards which are personal and really help them get to the next step. So thank you and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera Colon. Anyone else? Mr. Romero.
I have a question for the principal. Are these all the students in the program, or are there more that couldn't make it?
Or we just tried to get we got a representation of students, and we had some cancellations, but These are the ones who showed up, and I think they were able to give a really good representation of what it's like to be in the programs, what's offered, and the challenges that they face and how they overcome them. So there's lots of other students. These are just some of the representatives.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. So for me, sitting here and hearing of some of the challenges and barriers, just as Ms. Rivera Colon said, those are the impacts in your life, right? Where you decide whether you're going to let that barrier stop you or you're going to climb over that barrier and you're going to make something great with it. I always say the challenges that I've gone through in my life are what got me to where I am today. And that's exactly those same challenges and barriers that have come in your life is what's going to get you to where you're going to be in the future. As for me, healthcare, I'm there. So I love to hear when people want to get into healthcare, right? It's a profession where we're giving back. It's giving back to your community. I will say it's very challenging working in healthcare. You got to learn about yourself. You got to love yourself to be able to care for those that you're going to be caring for, because at the same time you're being advocates. Same goes with any profession that you do. The profession that Nakisha, criminal justice, but now you want to change the world. You want to bring change to the world. I love that, right? You said you wanted to learn more about how people interpret life. So are you looking more towards the mental health, social service type field? What type of field? Or are you looking at criminal justice and changing the injustices that are in that?
I think I'll say the mental. I think that with COVID, so I said mental health. I think that with COVID, the mental health community has increased. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people now think more about the mental health of their kids, their students, their parents. Right now, that is coming really strong to the world, and before it didn't. It didn't. A lot of parents didn't think of how hard high school or these challenges that and me are facing affect us mentally or emotionally, and today they do because of COVID and all the problems and issues that's caused in our community.
That you are correct. Mental health was on the rise, especially in adolescence for years. But it wasn't something that was really viewed or looked at, right? Because mental health is not looked at as a disease. It's looked at as a choice. Like a person chooses to be depressed and they can just snap out of it. And those of us that work in the mental health field, I've worked in it for 25 years, it's about getting people to see that mental health is not a choice. It's the disease of the brain. And if the brain is the computer of your body and there's a disconnect there, obviously there's something more going on that we need to take care of. And COVID did bring light to it because so many people went into a depression, the anxiety, so many things were happening in this world. So what did COVID do? It brought to light the seriousness of mental health, and hopefully we're going to continue moving in the direction of getting people such as yourself to really want to get into the field to help individuals that are suffering from it. So thank you so much for bringing that. As for Camelia, okay. Something that you said just brings me back, things that our kids do to help out the family, right? Working 2 jobs, helping your mom, helping your sister, and still doing what you got to do for your education. I look up to you. I give you props.
Thank you.
That's something that I couldn't do. I took the easy way out growing up, but I give you all the props. You're an inspiration to many, and I hope and sincerely hope that you continue in that path, because you're going to do a lot in life. Thank you so much. And it's either Cam or Pam. I was like, what? Cam? C. I put K. I was close. There, but K. with your fashion, are you working with that killing monster? What was it?
Oh, She Kills Monsters.
She kills monsters. I'm like killing monsters, killing other monsters. Are you part of that production?
So for that one, I've been more focusing on my own, like, my fashion show, because I have a lot to get done, so I couldn't be in that. But I do help every once in a while, because I'm, like, very involved in the theater company, and I was Charlie in the Chocolate Factory at HHS. Yeah. So
Now
yeah.
they remember.
Yeah.
I was like,
But yeah. But yeah, definitely very involved with the play and the theater stuff for the past couple of years. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have time with college applications and all the stuff to be in that one.
So when it comes to college, so I have my niece. She moved from Miami into New York, and she went to the New York, I guess, Institute of Fashion.
Fashion Institute.
Fashion
Technology,
Institute.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're striving for as well?
Yeah, I'm still a little like conflicted on where I want to go, because there's lots of different really nice schools. I'm applying to like a ton of different ones, but I just don't know how far away I want to go from home. So yeah, still like exciting. But FIT with Fashion Institute is definitely a really good school that I would like to get into.
Excellent. Congratulations. And again, thank you to all of you. And we do have to as well acknowledge and thank the families, their parents, it could be cousins, neighbors, friends, everybody that's involved in these students' lives that make them continue going to where they're going. That's it for me. I sounded long-winded, right? Anyways, Mr. Wallahan, and then that's it.
Real quick, thank you. Just make sure we get the link for your fashion show. Okay, yeah. So have the link sent to Mr. Soto, and then he'll forward us. Thank you.
Thank you again for coming. Thank you, Miss McKenna. Thank you to, I'm sorry, I did not get to write his name. Cado. Thank you so much for all that you're doing to help our students. They did recognize you, Marielis, so there were a few that they did recognize, and we want to thank the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move along to the public comment section of the agenda. Ms. Garcia, did anybody sign up for public comment or submit?
No public comment.
Okay, and we don't have anyone in the audience as well. We're going to go ahead and move to communications and reports, student reports. If we could have Mr. Evan Kennedy report for Holyoke High School South Campus. Dean.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Evan Kennedy. I'm the Dean Campus student rep, and I have a rather shorter list of updates. The first one is staff and students promoted Dean this month in anticipation for 8th grade tours. I believe that is referring to students and staff going to the middle schools, and what we did was we talked to the 8th graders and kind of gave them some information about Dean. And tomorrow, where's that at? Somewhere right here. Okay, yes. Tomorrow, Holyoke Community Charter School tours will be happening at Dean. 64 8th grade students are coming, and the tours will be given by the Dean Tech ambassadors and the shop representatives. I'm so sorry. And that is essentially, the Dean Ambassadors is one of our clubs, and the students will be leading the 8th grade students around and giving them a tour of all the shops and all the classrooms. Let's face it, most of them are coming for the shops. So that's going to be the highlight. Dean applications are open on the Holyoke Public Schools website right now. So if you know anyone that wants to apply to Dean, they can go to the HPS website and it'll be there. On January 27th, students and staff will be participating in a twin day in order to develop a strong school culture. On that topic, Dean Campus Student Government will be holding a Valentine's Day fundraiser on February 14th. We will be selling roses, carnations, and candy. Students and staff will be able to pre-sale if they would like, as well as have their orders delivered through the building. Vacation Academy will be open during February vacation for students to earn their ELA credit. And we have a few new staffers in the building. Christopher Kelly is our new CTE director. Hopefully I don't. Savannah Hennessy is our college and career counselor, and Maria Bartista is one of our new health assisting instructors, which actually fills up health assisting, which I believe is the first time in about 2 years that we've had all 3 positions filled, which is pretty exciting. On the topic of health assisting started site clinicals at Care One. Clinicals are a chance for students to practice their skills in the field that are studied in shop. And Culinary Arts had a mock health inspection, so students were able to see the ins and outs of safety and health inspections. School committee members, please look out for invitations to the culinary department. They're looking forward to having you. And that is all. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Kennedy? Thank you so much. Do we have the Holyoke High School North Campus? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question for Mr. Kennedy?
I had a comment. He
Oh,
forgot
go
to mention that the staff beat the students in the basketball game.
Maybe there was a reason for that.
Kidding.
I don't know. I had the flu that day, so I didn't even know.
There's some things we don't share if it's not to our benefit. Ms. Garcia, is the Holyoke High School North student representative on Zoom?
No, she's not.
Okay. Okay.
This weather?
All right. So I know that currently we have on Zoom, I know that on the next agenda, we have the superintendent receiver reports, but we do have City Councilor Jose Maldonado Velez on Zoom regarding the Youth Services Committee. So I don't know if someone wants to put a motion to go out of. So we have a motion to go out of order to take up the Youth Services Committee, and I have a second by Mr. Wellahan. Motion was put in by Ms. Wilson. All those in favor, if we could please, no. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Okay, so we need a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Garcia,
Yes.
Ms. Lefebvre,
Yes.
Ms. Brunel,
Yes.
Mr. Romero,
Yes.
Ms. Tensi Williams,
See.
Ms. Rivera Colon,
Yes.
Ms. Feliciano is not here. Mr. Wellahan,
Yes.
Mr. Collmore,
Yes.
and Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes. So we're going to go ahead and invite City Councilor Jose Maldonado Velez to kind of talk about the Youth Services Committee, the purpose, and how the school committee is involved.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Lefebvre, for inviting me. And hello, school committee. That was a really cool presentation with the whole public schools. We're so used to seeing all the negative that it's actually good to see like a lot of the positive that's happening. So that's great. So this whole youth services committee has been sort of a journey for the last couple months since the summer. Just to state the intention from the beginning. The intention behind it is to sort of change a little bit what's happening on the city council side. The intention is not to necessarily affect anything that's happening on the school committee slash city council joint committee side. So really what it is right now we have in city council, we have 7 committees, one of them being the joint school and city council committee. And you know, we'll use one example. So in our city council rules, we do have Rule 10C that says that we should have a youth ambassador of the city council that attends full city council meetings and all that stuff. So I would love for one of our committees, one of our 7 committees, to take that on. Unfortunately, and so when I think of that, I think the one that is dealing primarily with students or with youth in our city, which would be the one that is the joint committee, would be it. However, since it is not necessarily school related, it is not a topic that can be discussed in the joint committee with the school council and the school committee and the city council. So with that, back in August, I tried to change the name to Youth Services Committee, saying that the Youth Services Committee is a committee that does youth-related, takes on youth-related issues, and also actually I just changed the name, and then after conversation with Aaron and Mildred, it turned out like that's not what it needed to happen. So there was actually another order that went along with this one that we're discussing right now that says revert the Youth Services Committee name, and now it's back to being the joint committee of the school committee and the city council. So now the order that we have in front of us is to add a Youth Services Committee to the city council size, and that those members in that Youth Services Committee are also happen to be the representatives in the joint committee of the city council and the school committee. So what I mean is just an example using the youth ambassador example, it would be that they're able to take up, you know, whatever they decide to advertise and market and, you know, let people know that we do have this youth ambassador position within the council. And also whenever there's a joint school committee and city council meeting, that they're also participating in that meeting. So really that's where it's at right now. I know there's other things that were brought up, probably like a rec center. I know that's something that we've been discussing around for the youth and stuff, or anything that's really youth related. Or, you know, we were talking about mentioning mental health, and not to say that the school committee is not taking care, not doing these things. But, you know, my thing is the youth exists not just within the school system, the youth in Holyoke exists, you know, beyond the school system. So how can we make sure that we're taking care of those issues? So really, yeah, that's where it's at right now. So pretty much based on the last order, it went back to how it originally was. We have the joint school committee and city council. We're back to the original 7. And this order that I put in is just to add that, I mean, technically it would be an 8th committee on the city council side, but it's just more of like a logistical thing that we just have to add this committee in order for them to take on these other sort of topics and issues. With that said, there's been this whole other discussion on the city council side around adding committees, getting rid of committees. So like, I don't think anything will be finalized around that right now. But yeah, well, that's really where it's at right now. And I know Aaron has been sort of following on. Mildred, I don't know if I missed anything or if any clarity, any questions. This is why I'm here.
Okay, so did you guys could you hear and understand what the purpose of it is? And I know it's kind of shoddy there a bit, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to hear what this was about, and if you have any questions. So I'm opening it up for questions. Mr. Collmore.
All these comments to the city council and school.
So it's been there.
Already in there now.
Yes. Yes.
Then we have a committee right now on that, so let it stay in the committee. Let it come out of committee to the city council.
Does anybody else have any other? And I'll speak after everybody else has had any questions, and then it'll probably bring some light to it. Miss Wilson.
I guess my understanding is I think from the standpoint of needing a youth ambassador to the city council, if that's supposed to come from this subcommittee, I think that's something to work on. I think if you want to reach out more to the youth, that would be a separate committee from my understanding, because this should be working collaboratively and discussing what are the common issues now that we need to work on together, either to bring to full school committee or to the full city council. So I think that's my understanding of how this joint committee is supposed to work.
Right. So, as city council,
Mildred, I don't know if you see my hand, but it's up.
oh, it
Just
is.
F-
It is
Gee,
up.
it's your curtain.
It's
Your
matching the
curtain is not a good curtain. You need it to go towards the wall, but then I could see it. All right, Miss Brunel.
There we go.
Thanks. So that's exactly what the purpose is, Ellie, is to make that distinction between, what they were trying to do, and then they kind of interfered it into the joint committee, but made the differentiation that I can't speak today. You know what I'm trying to say, the word made it different in one of itself. So Jose, thanks for coming and talking with us, even though you didn't need to, because the city council creating a new committee certainly is not school committee business. But I greatly appreciate it. Any opportunity we have to keep good working relations between the two bodies is amazing. I applaud your efforts in this. I think any opportunity to get the youth more involved in city government would be a great thing. I'm sure you can connect with the principal over at Holyoke High and get involved with the student government there. I know our middle school has student governments going now too. My daughter serves on the student council at Metcalf. So yeah, any opportunity for the city council to get more involved with youth in the city would be great. Above and beyond what we're doing as a joint committee. So thank you for that. Thanks for your efforts, and thanks for coming and telling us about your plan.
Okay, so the reason that I ended up putting this onto the agenda was because there was a bit of a confusion for me in understanding, and I did get a chance to speak with City Councilor Maldonado Velez to kind of get a clarification. But I also wanted him to come to the board and kind of explain it as well, so we're not hearing it from different people. Like, I want to hear it straight from the person, right? And so one of the paragraph, or how it went, said in this thing, it was the order that we add a Rule 9B8 committee to read: the Youth Services Committee shall have jurisdiction over matters relating to the youth and are the representing body for the joint committee and the city council and school committee. So when I read that, right, shall be the representing body, that's where I'm thinking, okay, hold on a minute. So are we saying then that youth service is the youth service committee will be having a said vote on the joint city council school committee? Because with subcommittees, right, we're looking at the rules of when we're conducting subcommittees, right, and people that are assigned to subcommittees, only technically those people should be at that table. Any other person, even if you are on the board, should not be at the table where the discussions are being held. You shall also not be able to speak until you are recognized by the chair. You are as public. You're in the audience, okay? So here, the school committee, in our bylaws, we have student representatives of the Holyoke Public Schools. They are chosen by their student government body to represent the school that they attend, and then come to the school committee, and now they are part of the school committee board. So then when it came about that the youth, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a youth service committee, but that was something that was found as a lack on the city council side, right? So then that should have been a group that if they wanted to, that they said they were going to develop, because now we're talking about the youth needs across the board. So across the board, there are students here in this district that do not attend the Holyoke Public Schools. They are either out of district, school choice, out of district. They may be going to Catholic school. They may be going to charter schools. So then, are they the ones that are going to be making, if they are the chosen ones, right, that sign up to be on the youth service committee and get picked, right, or appointed by the city council to be the representatives? Now you have who's representing on the joint city council school committee, which has to do with the Holyoke Public Schools. So concerns regarding if it has to do with needing money for whatever. There's things that go to the city council in the joint that it's because the city needs to also make a decision. So now we're having a decision because now if you guys are going to ask that they be the representing body and as well as be a voting body, which now we would have to look at, is that even in our bylaws and our policies? All that would have to be changed. Now they are not representatives of the Holyoke Public Schools. So we have other students that are making decisions, or your ambassador making a decision for something that they are not part of. You understand where I'm going with this? So when we talk about them being a part of these subcommittees, that's fine. I don't have a problem with youth participating in any of our subcommittees, but it's just as us, when we're not part or appointed to that subcommittee, we are like the public. That if we want to be recognized and we want to speak or we want to join in on the conversation, we have to raise our hand, or if there's a paper to sign up for public discussion, give our comment, whatever, and then you can be a part of it, but you will not have a vote. So that, Mr. Collmore, is why I brought it, because I think we need to get an understanding, and we have to be more aware of what exactly is being talked at City Council when it comes to things that might affect the Holyoke School Committee. I do understand we may not have local control, but we were put here by our constituents. We were put here to advocate for the children that attend the Holyoke Public Schools. So that's all I wanted to say. City Councilor Maldonado Velez.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Yeah, I think both you and Aaron said a lot of hold on, sorry, everything just yeah, so yeah, I think you both get it. And I know, even though Aaron made the point, like it's on the city council side, the fact that I wrote the language saying that these are the representatives in the joint school committee, I mean, it's good that I don't mind having this discussion, because I think it may in some way, shape, or form, it actually do affect the joint committee. So, and I know last time when we did it, there was no input whatsoever. So I appreciative of this conversation that we're having right now. Just to like sort of like break down what that would look like, what would it be for me. So like our city council rules, if you go to the city council rules, we have the 7 standing committees. Committee number 7 is the joint committee of the city council and school committee shall have jurisdiction over matters relating to joint matters of the city council and school committee. So then my intention would be to add that 8th committee that says the youth services committee has jurisdiction over issues related to the youth and are also the representative body. That last part may be where it's also getting into the tricky part. So maybe we just have a youth services committee and we also have the joint school committee. But I think, again, that will be a lot more of like on the city council side. As far as like what this youth ambassador will look like, they're not necessarily voting. Like in our council rules, the youth ambassador, they'll be allowed to speak during public comment. They're able to attend regular meetings. They're able to sit at the committee chair with our administrative assistant just to see like how the system is going and helping out that way. But they don't really have much of like a voting power, and they wouldn't necessarily be a representative within a subcommittee. I just need this youth services committee to start looking for that youth ambassador for the city council, for the bigger city council. And that's really where, yeah, that's sort of my thought into this. But yeah.
Thank you, City Councilor Maldonado Velez. Mr. Walhan. Ms. Brunel, did your hand just stay up? Or did you?
No, it's up again.
Okay, just let me get to Mr. Wallahan first, and then you can go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the time. Yeah, I mean, the youth ambassador, the youth service committee, I think it's a good idea. I mean, you can look at it in a narrow point or a broader point. I think maybe, you know, the youth service can, you know, encapsulate something, you know, issues that don't actually involve the schools. It could be a positive, you know, neighborhood meetings. It could be, you know, youth sports, you know, ballparks, you know, that don't necessarily have, you know, direct control by the schools. You know, the park and recs, you know, serve the park. So, you know, I'm kind of thinking of it as more a broader topic where the youth has a say in our city that don't necessarily involve the schools per se. Again, it could be traffic issues, litter, sports, fields, lack of services on their point, safety issues. So I am kind of think it's a good way of involving our youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallahan. Miss Brunel.
Yeah, I was just going to say the way I read it, it was to seem like the same, say, 3 city councilors would serve on both committees, but not necessarily the youth person they bring in. So I don't know that the youth service committee would be the representatives to the city council school committee. And correct me if I'm wrong, please, Jose. I read it as if, like, you know, whatever within city council, the 3 members that serve on this one will also be the same 3 members that serve on this one. That's how I read it, as opposed to being, but, you know, maybe it's just a language thing that needs clarity. You know, because I definitely agree with Mildred's point. We wouldn't want, you know, there couldn't be some other child representative within the joint committee, but I think we're kind of fuzzing that line. I think it's just meant to say the city councilors that serve on the school committee subcommittee will be the same 3 city councilors that, you know, will be on this new committee that they're forming. But that's just my interpretation.
Any other questions or comments? Well, again, I thank you, City Councilor Maldonado Velez, for coming and kind of clarifying and giving us a broader understanding. As I said, I do not in any point think that it's a bad idea. As a matter of fact, I'm happy that the City Council is finally going to do what they were supposed to do a long time ago. And now you're really focusing on getting that moving forward. Again, it's about making sure that, you know, that is something that's look at the whole broader issues regarding youth in the city, and that the Holyoke School Committee, that's with the joint, is looking at currently what's affecting Holyoke Public Schools and what we need to ensure that the students that are attending the Holyoke Public Schools are getting, you know, the services and educational experiences that they need. And that's what we're there to represent. We're here to represent everybody, you know. But really the focus is on the Holyoke Public School students. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. All right, we're
Good
going
night,
to go.
everyone. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move back to the communications and reports, and I pass it over to our superintendent receiver for his reports.
Great, thank you. I just want to jump right to slide 6. Today our hopes was just to share a brief overview of the school calendar that we're proposing for next year, and then opening it up for any feedback or questions. Even if you don't have those questions or that feedback tonight, we'd love to make sure that we get that. You could just email myself and Dr. Mahoney if you have feedback after the meeting. So we have conducted multiple conversations with district leaders and school leaders. I did get some feedback on this with our teacher advisory group. We met on it last week. The first version of this had us starting the school year after Labor Day because we wanted that extra week of to get our buildings ready. As a result of the rezoning, there's going to be a lot of work that has to be done over the summer, a lot of moving of furniture, moving of supplies, things like that. And when we looked at that version of the calendar, there were a lot of things in it that we did not like. We didn't like how late. I know staff wouldn't have appreciated how late in the summer the school year ended, and it had us going to school on election day, which is usually a professional development day. So, it went through a few versions, and the version that you have right now in front of you, I just wanted to highlight a few things. One of them is that it actually only starts 2 days later than normal. So instead of starting on that Monday, we would be starting on Wednesday. So it gives us a little bit more time for us to prepare for rezoning and get everything in order for the start of the school year. It does give 2 additional days of summer break for teachers and staff. And then the other thing that I wanted to highlight is that people had mentioned liking about this calendar being proposed is that it's a gradual transition back to school. So the first week of school would be a 3-day week. Then the following week, because of the holiday, would be a 4-day week. And then the following week after that would be a 5-day week. So after the summer, it's kind of a gradual reintroduction to the start of the school year, which a lot of people thought was a good thing about this calendar. It does have 4 professional development days in August as usual, which one of those days will allow staff to get their classrooms ready, which is a new feature we added to this particular calendar, and the teachers on the teacher advisory group really embraced that and thought it was great that they were getting that day. And then it has us ending right around where we would be ending this year, June 18th, if we don't have any snow days, and then the 25th would be if we incorporate 5 different snow days. The other thing that we wanted to highlight about this proposed calendar is that it creates a space for family conferences at the end of the first quarter and at the end of the third quarter, which would allow teachers and families to have a little more dialogue around what's going on academically with their child. So we incorporated half days for those as well. So there's going to be 2 dedicated half days for family conferences throughout the year, which we got a lot of positive feedback at the teacher advisory group for creating that, as opposed to like schools doing their own thing, after the school day or something like that. The professional development calendar, it synchronizes PD days at the end of first, second, and third quarters, which allows staff to get enough student work and monitor the growth and just plan their professional development accordingly. And yet another year, we want to remain culturally responsive, given that a large majority of our community does celebrate Three Kings Day. We did honor that in this calendar, and granted a day off for students on Friday, January 5th, and Wednesday, June 19th, should we have a snow day that brings us that into the summer.
Are there any? Oh, okay, Miss Wilson.
So I'm just noting that I think in previous years the professional development day was, and I'm gonna because we're from Holyoke, the second largest parade. There was a PD day for teachers the day after the parade, and I think that was appreciated. So I'm not sure if that's something that was just discussed or not. So I just remember that the year that went in place, teachers were very appreciative of having a professional development day that day. That's all. I just wanted to add.
So that would be for March 18th.
That would be the day after, whatever the weekend we have the parade. It would be that Monday. I'm not sure if we have it on the 17th or if we're having it, the before or after. So, but that was just something that I know that teachers kind of enjoyed the fact that kids were, tired or wound up, and so just being able to devote themselves to focus on their growth was something they appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If them have their hands raised. Okay. Well, what I do notice is that every holiday seems to fall on a Monday.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Normal. Usually like that.
All right.
If it's a holiday on the weekend, it's usually observed.
Okay. All right.
Like this year. And then Labor Day, Memorial Day, they're usually on Martin. And I just want to call Dr. Mahoney up to help with the next section. That was just the calendar. We have a few things. It's not a lengthy presentation, I promise. For the Yonder bags, we did bring this to school committee, got some pretty good feedback from all of you. Met with both the student cabinet, the high school student cabinet, and the middle school student cabinet, and had an opportunity to get some feedback there. And we are moving forward with piloting 2 schools starting after February break. Dr. Mahoney, you want to walk us through this proposed timeline? You could move to the next slide, Sam.
So we, as Anthony mentioned, we've been talking about it both at the district level and at the school level with students, both STEM Middle School here on the Dean campus and Holyoke Middle School on the Peck campus have done community meetings, grade level and or whole school, to talk about it with students. They've sent home letters to families, the explanation of what they hope to accomplish by limiting student access to phones during the school day. And so those conversations have begun. This morning, I was at Kennedy Middle School. A couple of folks from both of the schools, the dean of students and the dean of operations from Holyoke Middle School, and then the principal and the dean of students from here from STEM. And we were able to observe a 400-plus student middle school in Springfield, how kids entered in the day, how they collected them, what the process and procedures were. Staff had a chance to talk to teachers, talk to school leaders, and to talk to kids about what the impact was. And, regardless of who we've gone to visit, so we've now had Holyoke folks at Central High School, at Chicopee High School, and now at Kennedy. Everyone has talked about the value added, both in the classroom academically, but also in the school socially. So that's been great. So we visited the schools today. They will. The 2 schools are having community meetings either this week and then again next week. So they're inviting folks to do one live and then one remote on Zoom. And counselors are beginning to identify and then work with kids. FOMO is fear of missing out. I knew some folks last week who needed to look that up. So there are, cell phones are designed to be addictive. and they're as addictive for adults as they are but they're especially addictive for pre-adolescent and adolescent brains, which really respond to the quick dopamine bum 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 that you get from a like, from a hit, and so counselors will start working with those students and with those families to really get them ready for the plan and how to make that work. And then they're already like, where are we going to enter? Where are we going to put the tables? How are we going to manage students who have difficulty following procedures at the beginning of the day, and that kind of piece. The folks at Kennedy shared a whole set of a ladder of consequences that they've used for middle school in particular. So it's great.
Next slide, please. Next slide, Sam. Thank you.
Great. So
I think you covered a lot of this already.
I did cover a lot of it. Just I think
wanted to make sure the public could see those dates.
Want to make sure that you all understand that we'll roll this out the week before February vacation. So that we've been messaging that, and the reason why we've decided to do that is it will give school leaders a week of like, we're doing it, and then if there's some things that they need to respond to, there's a little buffer time, and then when we return from vacation, whatever needs to be SHAPA will be SHAPA, because they'll have given it some time over vacation. That's where we are at the rollout.
Great. Thank you, Dr.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions? Ms. Wilson.
So, speaking of anxiety, are there any questions regarding students who have access to their phones, regarding their IEPs in order to take pictures of whiteboards, to have for hearing impaired, so that they can have like the read aloud text be placed into their cochlear implant? Has that been considered?
Yeah, so it's a really great question, and both Ms. Hall and Mr. Rattray have their counselors and their special ed staff reviewing, make sure that, and if there are any situations where there needs to be an accommodation, they're ready to make them. As a matter of fact, at Kennedy today, we were talking with a teacher in a emotional behavioral classroom, and who talked about, here are some things that we've done for some of our kids because the situations are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Mr. Wallahan?
When go back to the school calendar, do we have to take a vote to adopt that? Have in the past?
Not anymore. Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, so with this, I'm blanking on the name. Anyway, is there going to be an increase in technology like laptops or iPads coming into the school? Because like in every classroom, if students can't use if there's not enough computers or Chromebooks, then we go to our phones, like, because I mean, we do things on the computer too. That's one way of making school more enjoyable for the students. But there's not always enough Chromebooks or anything to go into the classrooms in every classroom. So is there going to be an increase in technology rolling into the classroom since the phones will not be accessible?
There should be a device for every single student in the Holyoke public school system. So if you have a classroom that there's a shortage of devices, please reach out to us, Mr. Kennedy, and we will work with the building leader and the dean of management and ops to correct that.
All right, thank you.
The only question I have is the policy. Was one created for this pilot program?
It's not a formal policy. It's just right now we're rolling it out as a pilot, and we're going to be creating a procedure, not necessarily a policy. This should inform whether or not we make it a policy to roll this out wide or at the high school. But right now, don't have a formal policy for pilot it and then policy.
The reason why I'm asking will then come down to disciplinary action. I think you can read between the lines as to if a student refuses to put their phone into the yonder bag, then is this going to lead to disciplinary action? That's why when I talked about policies, procedures, because when we went into receivership, everything was about autonomy, right? And so this school did their thing, that school did their thing, and things weren't everybody wasn't on the same page. So when you're rolling out something like this, with the yonder bags, I think there should be a strict policy. Like this is the procedure of how things are gonna run. Because I'm truly hoping that this doesn't lead to an increase in disciplinary action.
I could speak to I will say that both the two teams that are involved in this pilot, we will be getting together later this week to make sure that we have the same procedures that we used in implementing the use of the yonder bag. The feedback that we've gotten from folks in Chicopee and in Springfield at both the high school and middle school levels is that because students actually keep the phone with them, it's just in the bag, that the conflicts that we experience now if I wanted to take Mr. Kennedy's phone and hang on to it for the whole day, that becomes a much more of a high tension point than simply saying you need to put this in the bag, you keep it for the rest of the day. If there's an emergency, you come and find me, and we'll work out the emergency that get the phone for. And then so they have found their experience that has not led to kind of conflicts that when we confiscate a kid's phone right now does, because that phone is worth $800, and I'm a busy guy. I may not be keeping track of Mr. Kennedy's phone today, and he doesn't want to lose it. So.
But just as you said, his emergency may not constitute an emergency on your part, right? You might not think that that's an emergency. So that's why when I'm talking about policies, procedures, it's what's going to determine, if the student comes to you and says, "I need to call my mom," maybe they're going through some sort of anxiety right now. They want to call their mom. Yeah. And is the other person going to be like, "Now's not the time"? Well, the student's going to come back and say, "Listen, I want to call my mom." And now we're butting heads. So now we're escalating a problem. But there's no policy around that. Like it could be taken because it's a pilot program, and you're not gonna do this. It's just gonna be a procedure. The procedure is just gonna lay out what's gonna be done. Procedure is when the student enters the building, they grab a bag, they put the phone in the bag. The bag gets sealed. Now they go to class. For exiting, they put it on this magnet. Now it opens up. They take the bag. If they lose the bag, they come get a new bag. But there's nothing else in there. I personally feel that this is something that needs to be included into, things that, some sort of policy that could be referred to the policy subcommittee that could be working with your team of yonder phone people to develop a policy and a procedure, even if it's a pilot program. We did a pilot program for the uniform at Kelly School when we came before the school committee, because kids were not going to be disciplined for not wearing the uniform. We also came up with ways to get uniforms, in the schools in case the student dirtied their pants, or their pants got dirty, or they didn't have the shirt. You could offer it to them. One was still developed. I don't understand why one can't be. but that's again, that's a recommendation that that I'm suggesting that maybe referring to the policies committee to work on creating policy. But again, that's your decision.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, I thought that my thoughts on this, that during the pilot, it'll help inform a lot of things. Look, we're not going to get this right away. 100%. And I would say that some of the policies that you're referring to aren't consistent. Some policies, some schools have policies around wearing your hood in the hallway, and some don't. And I think that this is a great opportunity for us to pilot this, learn from it, and work collaboratively with the school to create a policy that eventually gets out. Have a pretty solid we have 2 schools that are ready and willing to help. It could be a really good policy.
Especially when we roll into next year, when now it'll be 3 schools, because now you'll have Sullivan Middle School. That'll
And
be your
possibly the high
middle
schools.
school, and then you have the high school. So,
So I just want to let you know that after Ms. Tensley Williams, we also have Jody, who's, I'm not sorry, she saw
yep,
her.
I got her. Miss Tensley Williams.
Unless there's a Privacy Act, what's wrong with the student having the teacher call the parent? Now, I understand what Mr. Favor is saying, but if there is an emergency, really, the teacher should call the parent.
Yeah, there will be situations. A lot of what you guys are bringing up is what could happen, but like these are all situations that I am confident our teachers and our administrators are going to work through and we need to make sure and we need to monitor that that's being done. We're going to be looking at referrals. We're going to be looking at all of this data to make sure that the goal of this isn't to harm students, to help them. We need to make sure that we're doing that.
Okay, I have, let me get to Miss Rivera Colon.
Thank you. I think that this is a program that can be very beneficial, but I do also kind of piggybacking off what Ms. Lefebvre was saying is what happens, a student comes in and says they don't have a phone. You can't really be going on and searching to see that they have a phone or not, right? And then having the plan of what happens if they don't comply, and making sure that whatever that plan is, and I know that we're not gonna get that done right away, and it's not gonna be done perfectly, right? Like there's no such thing, but having an idea of how do we turn that into a learning opportunity, because there should be no loss of learning, because that's exactly what we're trying to fight, right? Like being able to keep them paying attention, being able to keep them focused on the work. So just putting that seed in your mind that there should be whatever disciplinary actions go towards not complying with this. Compliance should not be above learning. Learning should be always the most important thing.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera Colon. Mr. Wellhand, was your hand was up, right?
Thank you. Real quick, yeah, I just sort of agree with your point on the policy. When you're talking about discipline, it has to be tied to some sort of policy. I mean, you gotta, it's like if the child is disciplined in any way or matter, the parent will be notified. Parents going to say, what policy, what rule did my child break? What's the policy in place for my child, and what are the ramifications for it? Show me that in writing. So it has to be tied to a policy. I mean, the program I support, but there has to be some sort of a policy involved to tie it all into one topic. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, as I said, I mean, it's not that you guys are all going to have the answers immediately. I look at policies as something that can continually be changing to reflect the current situation, or as things are evolving, as people are seeing, okay, this isn't working, we've got to change this, and that's where policies start being revised more often. Unlike ours, they're still in the ancient times, but because you don't know what could happen, right? It's just like the pandemic. Nobody ever thought that a pandemic was coming. Nobody ever put in a crisis type management rollout so that it didn't become what it became. But now we're learning. Now we're preparing ourselves. Holyoke, the city of Holyoke should have an emergency management plan, correct? For natural disasters. What could happen? This is what we're going to do. Am I correct with the Board of Health? The same thing goes with programs that you put into the school, even pilot programs. It's just indicating this is a pilot program that we're starting. This is the purpose. These are the benefits, and these are the procedures that are going to be taking place. And if A or B happens, these are the steps or measures that we have to take, whatever the measures are. I guess I just work that way because being in healthcare, everything revolves under policies and procedures. You can't straight cast somebody and everybody does it their own way. There's a policy, there's a procedure to straight cast somebody. If not, you're going to have a problem, right? So that's how my mindset works. Everything should be guided, and not everybody should feel that I'm going to do it my way. So, I mean,
agreement and work. And I think that this has to adapt the pilot program because we learn a lot. Hey, maybe we weren't right about that. Let's monitor this, codify it as we're gonna.
I'd like to make a motion to refer the Yonder and the developing a policy or procedure to the policy subcommittee.
do I have a motion to start all over again what you just said? I'm
to
sorry.
refer the usage of Yonder bags and establishing a policy/procedure to the subcommittee.
To the development, okay. And we have a second by Ms. Tensley Williams. Is there any discussion? Okay, so we need a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Garcia,
Yes.
Ms. Lefebvre,
Yes.
Ms. Brunel,
Yeah.
Mr. Romero,
Yes.
Ms. Tensley Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Rivera Colon,
Yes.
Mr. Wellahan,
Yes.
Mr. Callamore,
Yes.
and Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes unanimously. Pass it back to Superintendent Receiver, Mr. Soto.
I want to skip over the next section, which is the middle school building update, and I think Ms. Brunel can report out when, as a part of the subcommittee reports, and just skip to slide 14, which is rezoning next steps. Will be real quick. In this last week of January, all families will have received a letter of where their child's school placement is and whether or not they're eligible for transportation. And then in the month of February, we're going to be conducting surveys for input on different aspects of the middle school rezoning. And then between the months of February and May, we do plan on hosting school tours for you know, if you are a particular family that is impacted by rezoning, you'll have an opportunity to tour the school, have a guided tour, and then in March we hope to announce the school calendar and the start and end times. We're working right now. You saw the calendar that was proposed in front of you, so we're looking at all the feedback that we're getting throughout the process and hope to announce that no later than March, as well as school start and end times, and then uniform decisions. Whether or not we're going to have a decision on that is part of the surveys that we're getting input on is that whether families want uniforms or don't want uniforms. So we're waiting to get those results back to decide how we roll out or change any existing uniform policies that we have. Then in the month of March, the priority zone appeal application process starts, and on May 15th we have a professional development day just dedicated for rezoning and new school teams. So for example, if you're at one school going to another school, you have an opportunity to meet with your new school teams to start talking about planning for next year, which is we thought about this last year when we developed the calendar, and I'm really glad we did, because it's going to be a whole day where principals can meet with staff, and staff can collaborate and work together on planning for next year. And then part of this is resetting culture, getting used to different schools. So we know that the middle of August to late August, we want to make sure all schools have back to school celebrations or orientations or tours, things like that, so that families have an opportunity to connect with the building, and students have an opportunity to connect with the building as well. And of course, we got to make sure we're upgrading the facilities that we talked about, especially Sullivan and Metcalf, just solely based on the fact that right now they have a bunch of elementary students in them, but they're going to be middle school next year. So there's things like raising the sinks up and raising the toilets a little higher, things like that, because there's going to be older students in there. Really, that's the next steps that we have with rezoning, and that concludes my presentation.
Anybody have any questions, comments? No. I do have one question. Is there a way? I had some families approach me, like they have their kids like Catholic schools. If they wanted to come back, if they want to come to the public schools, by them not knowing what zone they're in, they don't know if they really want their child in the dual language program, right? Is there a way for them to look at the map on our website
Yes.
to see where exactly? Because if I understand correctly, if you're in the Ian White neighborhood, then if you're zoned Ian White is a dual language program.
Yeah, we have slots for citywide that they can certainly apply to. I will say, I don't like student that's in 5th grade wouldn't be able to just. They would
Second
have
or third.
They would have fallen so far behind in terms of the Spanish language acquisition that it would I wouldn't recommend that as a kid. It's hard. Anybody who's gone through the dual language program knows that you're working a lot on developing that second language in pre-K and K and 1st grade. To be thrown in at 3rd grade, unless you are a Spanish dominant, would be really, really, really challenging and might not be the best scenario. But there is an interactive map that they can go on our website at Holyoke Public, or we have our website posted, www.hps.holyoke.ma/redesign. A lot of information, including interactive map that you can type in your address, but no are assigned to. But the
The
dual
zone
language
at current time or zone for
for
that
next year.
time? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And if you run into those families, I'd be happy you direct them to enrollment at HPS. We have somebody monitoring that email address every day for questions.
Excellent. Mr. Collmore?
Is the rezoning part of contract?
They're independent of each other, but rezoning definitely has an impact on transportation. So we are not changing our transportation policy in terms of thresholds. So in grades K through 5, if you live a mile away or less, you're not eligible for transportation unless it's stated in your IEP. Grades 6 to 8 is 1.5 miles or greater, and then grades high school is 2 miles or greater. Those thresholds are going to continue to stay the same. We haven't changed.
Okay. So that concludes the communications report section. Moving on to new business.
Wait, I have my
Yeah,
hand
there's a
up.
hand up.
Excuse
I'm
me, we have
sorry. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, Ms. Rivera Colon.
I just have a quick question because I know that surveys can be challenging. How are the families knowing about the surveys? Would it only be an email?
They're getting emails, they're getting text messages, they're getting Blackboard Connect phone calls, and there's also some outreach at the individual school level. If you see that participation is really low, our family engagement coordinators usually make phone calls to try to encourage participation. We put it in our Holyoke update. We use every form of communication that we have, which I feel, reaches a lot of families. Their text messages are in English and Spanish, voicemails are in English and Spanish, emails are in English and Spanish, and then our normal website, which a lot of people do use. So those are all the methods that we use to try to get feedback.
Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. So we're now going to go ahead and move on to new business. And the first thing on the agenda item is the 2023 dates for the school committee meetings. Did everybody get a chance to see them? Are there any questions? There was a lot of days, like I said, Monday, famous holidays fell on those days, so we either went to the following Monday. There might have been a Tuesday, or might have been. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm just checking Jewish holidays.
Now we're going to move on to junior prom. Mr. Wellahan, did you want to share?
Oh yeah, I just kind of read in the paper. That's all that I know, that the prom sort of went down the tube. Just want to get an update on that and see if that's an issue going forward. Was it a cost issue for some of the families? I think it's unfortunate if there was cost prevented any other students for attending the prom. That's my concern.
It was more of a participation issue. We only got 90 students to sign up, and last year they didn't go all out for the junior prom, and this year they wanted to really go all out and get a nice venue. I think so in order to do that, would have had to have like 200 students participate, and as the school tried to get more and more students to sign up for it, we only ended up having 90 students, which is about 45 couples. But I will say, I have talked to the principal about, meeting with the students again and figuring out an alternative an alternative venue or an alternative event so that we can celebrate similar to junior prom. So she's going to be working with the students to re-engage, to bring this up again and plan it. And if we have to invest more money at the district level to keep the costs down, we've committed to doing that. So, Lori is not here, but she is, her and her admin team are working with the students to do something.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, subsidizing some of the cost that would be good. I just hate to see that someone, if they can't afford to attend an event, that they're left out. That's my main concern. Again, another function, another avenue, like a field trip or a social hour, a half day at one of the parks or something like that as a substitute. I just don't want to see people are just left behind. Thank you.
Yeah, I just allocated $500,000 to all of our schools for stuff just like this. I gave, $500,000 to our principals, and I said, one of our core beliefs is that school should be a joyous place. So go spend this money on making school a joyous place, whether that's field trips or prom or anything like that. So Lori didn't know that funding was available, and now that she does, she's going to work with the school and work with the students to make something happen.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilson?
No, I was just pointing to Miss Brunel.
Oh.
I have a quick
You are the spokesperson for everybody on Zoom.
I have my laptop. I can see it easier than you can, so that's why.
Ms. Brunel.
To talk to him.
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Soto, is there still a staff advisor that gets assigned to the incoming freshman class that's their advisor through the 4 years?
Yeah, there's a class advisor, yes.
Isn't it, not to say it's their job, but isn't it their job to meet with the student council of the class, say freshman year, to talk about all these things so that the classes are planning ahead and fundraising and doing the things necessary to see proms happen? And so while I find it disappointing that prom potentially isn't happening the junior senior, I mean, it kind of falls back on the students. If the students want a prom, the students have to organize and put in the time and the effort starting freshman year, because that's kind of, I heard, why the cotillion fell through. We used to have the guild every fall for freshmen, sophomores, and that fell through because of lack of, from what I heard, advisors and planning and stuff like that. Student councils, it's their responsibility to do these things. So, maybe that needs to be talked about with the class of advisors that inherit the incoming freshmen, say next year. But these are things that, class trips, things like that planning starts for that at the beginning of freshman year. Fundraising starts at the beginning of freshman year to plan out how you want your 4 years of activities to go. So I'm glad the district's stepping in to try to help, but ultimately it really is on the students to organize and to ensure that they're getting the things that they want, working with that advisor to see it through. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to confuse anybody. Senior prom is still on as planned. That's going to happen. It's the junior prom that we didn't have enough participation. I do feel like, given the situation that we were in the past couple of years, maybe it was a little more difficult to raise money. But you're absolutely right. We got to work with our class advisors and work with our students, and also take into consideration that enrollment has gone down a little bit based on more kids going to Dean, right? Before we used to have 1,200 or more students at Holyoke High North, and we're not even at 1,000 right now, but which isn't a bad thing because more kids are going to Dean. But I would imagine
the prom shared between both campuses. Does Dean do their own? Because if not, then maybe the two campuses should be collaborating to have a bigger, more elaborate prom that they want.
I can't give a 100% guarantee, but it is my understanding that the campuses do give separate proms. They all have different advisors and different student governments, so it's to my understanding that we do different proms
at the
as well.
request of the students. This came up last year. Like they want their own identity. If you guys remember, Miss Burks was, really, really spearheading the voice of especially of our Dean campus students, about having their own graduation, about having their own prom and stuff like that. So it's really responsive to the students, but you're right, it makes more sense economically to combine it because we'll get more participation. But last year when this came up, that's not what the students wanted.
Ms. Tensley Williams?
I think my question was answered. I was going to ask about donations for the prom to help some of the students that can't afford it, but you just answered it. I think you have a budget for that, right?
Yeah, we'll help out. We'll try to, whatever. I don't know what the plan is. Lori was, unfortunately, as soon as this happened, she fell ill and was out for a few days. So she's working with the school and going to create a plan, make sure to work with the students. Whatever support they need, we're going to make sure that they get it.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Mr. Kennedy?
I just like to I know that I'm not at Dean campus, or I am at North Campus, but the advisor thing and how it's like the student's responsibility, I 100% agree that it is their responsibility to kind of do that. But at least at Dean, we've had such a drastic change in advisors that it's hard to kind of keep them. That's the wrong date. I'm sorry. I just got distracted really easily. It's kind of hard to kind of keep everything rolling if we're getting new teachers, a whole bunch of new teachers every year. For example, last year I had 2 advisors, and neither of them are here this year, so we had to implement a new one like a third of the way through the year. I don't even know if it's a third of the way through the year. Anyway, you get the point. So it's a little hard to actually keep things rolling if we're having such a drastic change in staff all the time.
Yeah. Good point, Mr. Kennedy.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to ongoing business. The first thing on the agenda is policy updates. You guys know what that means? No, right? What that means is a couple months ago, Miss Wilson brought to the board some of the policies that were focused on harassment, the Crown Act,
Dress code.
the dress code, and it was bringing them up to the current, kind of policies that even DESE and what federal and state laws where they're at now. So we had asked to see if we can get that posted, what your thoughts were. They haven't been posted, so I need to know where we stand with this.
I think they were because they were posted as part of the packet 2 meetings ago. They were included in the packet.
But part of our policy review is that they have to be up for 2 weeks for our community to review, and then at our next meeting ask for public input. So my understanding was that you were going to take the policies that we passed, and you were going to make to see if they met the criteria under receivership, and then come back to us with what changes, if any.
Yeah, so I've looked at them. We didn't have any changes. I thought they were well written, and they kind of align to what we're doing anyways. So I feel like they've been posted already for 2 months, given that they were a part of the packet.
They were not. They have to be
how do you want us to post
So
it?
they have to be posted online, and there is a process for that, and I can go over that.
Not what Liz, we actually worked with Liz, and she said you just have to add it to the agenda, then open it up for public comment the next meeting. But if there's another formal way of posting it, please let us know. We'll do it.
Okay, I'll let you know, because the same thing, Ms. LaFawn had shared with me that they need to be posted literally on our website for review, and it's not just part of our packet.
Well, I wouldn't say on our website.
So we'll get clarification as to the posting. How's that?
Perfect.
We'll make sure we'll do that.
Whatever it is, my conversation with her was as long as it's posted on the agenda and in the packet, which is public, that constitutes, and then you put it on the agenda the following meeting, opening it up for public comment. But again, let's just work and
Yep.
and whatever requirement we need to meet to have it officially posted, we'll do it, and then add it to the next agenda.
Great.
So that to open it up for people that may have public comment on it.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
In your packets, you're going to see an FYI on chronic absenteeism report. It's, as I said, this is something that we should be looking at every single meeting. Seeing, are we seeing improvement? Are we seeing decline? Then that way we can look at what are some of the factors and what are some things that we need to be focusing on to get it moving in the right direction. I know Mr. Soto and Mayor Garcia attended attendance seminar or
Yeah, we had a district-wide attendance campaign kickoff where we recognized students from every school. Many of our students have perfect attendance. Some of them have significantly improved attendance, well attended. I love to see, there's nothing more that warms my heart than to see a room full of families engaged in their students, school activities, and the students were all happy. Mayor was there. We both were able to recognize students publicly for their hard work and recognize families who really partnered in making sure they're getting their kids to school every day to the best of their ability. It was a great event. Kids got recognized. They got an award. They got little swag. They got lawn signs to bring home. And overall, I thought it was a great event. But that's all surface level, district level stuff. Really need to do more at the school level. And I know I mentioned it earlier, bringing back joy to schools. I allocated $500,000 to principals because really we want kids to wake up and want to come to school. And I want our principals to think about how to use those resources in a way that's going to spark joy.
Thank you. Updates from committee. I know the finance subcommittee met today. So, Mr. Wellahan, do you have any?
Thank you. We had a meeting tonight, the finance subcommittee, and Mr. Soto participated in Mickey Buell. What's his title? Mickey?
CFO.
CFO. Okay, so he gave a great presentation. Hopefully, we're going to be meeting on a monthly basis just to kind of get a kind of a current snapshot on the budget process and where it's going on a month-to-month basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Brunel, please.
She's not here, so I'll give a quick update if you'll allow
Yeah,
me to.
on the middle school project, right?
Yeah, so the middle school building committee voted 11-2 to move forward with Mount Vernon Group, which is they have a model school design that we thought would work well in Holyoke and was the most reasonably priced in terms of what they were projecting. Flansburgh was the second firm that got 2 out of the 13 votes, while Jones Whitsitt had with back in December. And really the next meeting is tomorrow. It's going to be at 6 o'clock via Zoom, and tentatively, and then the school building committee plans to accept whatever the fee schedule is that is going to be proposed, and we got to go to city council to review that and advise the schedule for the design. City council did appropriate about $475,000 for this phase in the process, so we're hoping that all of those under that, and we'll know tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
It's canceled because they didn't have their. Yeah, okay. Okay. So the meeting will be canceled, and we will be announcing when the next meeting is. Probably because the designer didn't have his fees ready to present to us.
Okay.
What that was the only thing on the agenda for.
Miss Wilson.
I have a question about procedure. So if I'm looking to have the policy subcommittee review a section in the policy manual, how do I add it to the agenda here for us then to send to subcommittee?
Okay, so all right, because we were just talking about something completely different. Okay, so in respects to that, we originally had previously said that you guys, the policy subcommittee, will now be working on updating.
Okay, so we're just gonna go. All right.
All the policies to reflect the current where we should be, right? So state, federal, and DESE, where their guidelines are at now. So that's every single policy. You have to look and see, is it up to date with the current standards?
Perfect. Thank you.
But anything new, like we talked about yonder, we referred, or if there's something that, as one of us is reading, or an issue comes up, and we want that to be a priority, then I know you're doing it. It's a lot of policy.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Wellahan?
Thank you. Just to go back to the school building committee, I've been kind of following the process via Zoom. I thought Mrs. Brunel did a great job running the meetings. I thought both presentations were well thought out and done. I just kind of want to make a point that there was many members of the committee that don't have the voting rights. You just mentioned the 11-2 vote, but there's many people on that committee that participated that didn't have voting rights. But I just want to thank them for their participation. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to move to announcements. So I was going to put it under new business, kind of ongoing. It was committee appointments, something that we do every January. I want to keep everybody on the same committees. This year, I think it's important for continuity, especially since we had a lot of new board members. Really to understand the process. We really weren't doing a lot of subcommittee meetings, and this year we said we want to get our district back, right, back into local control. So we need to start meeting more frequently when it comes to the subcommittees and really looking at, especially with policies, finance. So in case some did not remember what committees, so our school building committee rep, what we were just talking about, that will continue to be Miss Brunel. In the joint school committee city council, Miss Brunel will continue to be chair. We have Miss Rivera Colon and Mr. Wellahan. For the policy subcommittee, we have Miss Wilson as the chair, Miss Tensley Williams, Mr. Romero, and Ms. Rivera Colon. In finance subcommittee, we have Mr. Wellahan as the chair, Miss Brunel, and Miss Wilson. Mr. Colomar, I saw you here today. Would you like to be added to the finance subcommittee? So you're in the policies, Rosalie. No, and you wanted to be in the finance. Okay. And I also want to remind everybody, even if you're not on the committee, you can still attend. But like I said, you'd be as public, and you have to be recognized by the chair if you wanted to speak or something. But you could still participate in it. And then our other subcommittee was the diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging subcommittee, who is chaired by Ms. Feliciano Sims. We have Mr. Romero and Mr. Collimore on that one. That one there, we need to start working with Mogel, right? Leading that diversity, equity, and inclusion. If we're going to be talking about that, I mean, that's reminding me of social emotional learning, SEL, right? It became like the hottest word. Oh my God, social emotional learning. Everybody talked about it. You can talk all you want, if you, but if I'm not seeing what is the actual thing that we're doing, then obviously it's just a word. And I keep hearing diversity, equity, inclusion everywhere I go. That's all I'm hearing. Okay, so but what are we doing? Because this group has not met. So we need to start really making sure that the school committee is involved in that as well. Because again, if we're trying to work together here, somebody just had their hand raised. Mr. Collmore.
Is there any policy that on a monthly basis at our meeting, a report made?
So we had Mr. Wellhand just this evening for the finance, right? So in our agenda, I asked for the update. There should be someone typing it up and submitting to Ms. Garcia, so that way it could as well be posted and put into our archives, because we should have notes of every subcommittee. Mr. Wellhand.
I took the minutes today. Yeah.
Yep.
So eventually, I'll have those done.
Yep.
Properly and bring them to the full committee for acceptance.
Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collmore?
But every single meeting, who is vice chairman should ask for committee report.
Yep.
And every chairman of every committee should make some kind of a report of what they've done that month. Because I see committees that haven't met in 3 months or something like that. Every committee should meet at least once a month. There's got to be something on the agenda.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. So hopefully, well, other than the Joint City Council School Committee, that one is, when issues arise that we refer to them, that's when they'll meet. But, and Mr. Collmore, are you still on the Central Office Study Group? Are they still working on that?
Have not.
Nobody's heard anything else? I know Rory was the one spearheading that. Whatever came of that.
Yeah, we presented to the city council 8 options on how to get rid of the central office lease and what each option costs, and that was the extent of the committee's responsibility. The city would have to take action. Like, that was a long time ago, though. I believe that was in 2017.
No. This was last year. I was reached out to. It was Rory was the one that was doing. I think they were going to go to the annex or whatever.
Yeah.
Now you know what I'm talking about.
Right. So it kind of died off because the building that the school district is currently in ended up being sold off to somebody else, and the options that were at the table included purchasing that building. What were the other options? Moving it to.
It was purchasing that building. It was moving to the moving to Central Supply. It was moving to a school. It was moving to Lynch, and
the annex.
It was staying put. For all the different options that we presented to City Council.
And the most feasible option was, the current building, purchasing that and doing what we need to do and moving the annex folks over. But the building sold, and the group kind of just fell apart. Never came to fruition to anything else after that.
Yeah, because when I was reached out, Mr. Collmore was supposed to be a part of that group, and then I let him know when the meetings were or but then I wasn't
Yeah.
getting anything, so I thought he might have been getting the stuff. So okay, so that's a died down group.
I just have a question.
Okay. Yes. Principal.
So, Mr. Willihan, let us know the finance, and Ms. Wilson, let me know about policy.
Yeah, and also the meetings will be posted. All subcommittee meetings have to be posted, as well as those that are part of it will receive the material that's needed for that meeting. Do you still have the rezoning task force? Is that still in a live group, or
No.
it's done?
I mean, that
Okay.
group did a lot of great work. Thank you, Ellie and Gustavo, for your participation, and we're able to come to a lot of this work that.
All right, great. So that was just it, just making sure everybody knows their committee assignments and the expectations. Then we have two more announcements, which one of them was just canceled, and that's the middle school building for tomorrow. But we also have the CPAC parent advisory group it's going to be via Zoom, and it's a parent orientation meeting. And it has to do with the changes, right? The civil rights.
Here, focus monitoring.
Yep.
Part of the district has an obligation.
And so that'll be by Zoom. Are there any other parent?
Not this week, no.
No. Mr. Collmore?
Is there any way that on a monthly basis, or a calendar of upcoming events? I'm talking subcommittees, the dates that the subcommittees are going to be held, the dates of what's going on in the schools. If there's something important in the schools that maybe you think it would be nice to have a school committee personnel there.
We have an events calendar that we use for everything. It has the CPAC meetings. It has we do have that. I would just reach out to Sam Garcia if you want that to be added to your. If you want to be invited to that, so it shows up on your calendar. I'm not sure if you use the calendar function.
No. What it is,
But
maybe
we could work with Sam to.
maybe send
print
him
something.
a printout
Yeah.
of your district calendar with the events where they're going to be held, and mail it to Mr. Collmore, so
Yeah,
that
we
way he
could,
knows what's going on everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, is that good, Mr. Collmore?
Yes,
Yeah,
I did
on a
get
monthly
I
basis.
did get a for the end of January and in February. But I think it should be an ongoing process that once a month it's sent out,
We can incorporate that into.
something on the agenda.
Okay. Or we can add it to the agenda. Next month's events, right? We could do that under announcements and attach like the monthly calendar for what's going to happen
Sure.
at HPS next month. Any school, what events they're happening. At least we know a month in advance.
I will say some schools are better than others with keeping up to date. Our- that-
So with that being said, there's nothing further on announcements, but Miss Wilson is looking at me.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All those in favor, I need a roll call, please.
Mayor Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Fave,
Yes.
Miss Brunel, Mr. Romero,
Aye.
Miss Tenzie Williams,
Yes.
Miss Rivera Colon.
Yes.
Miss Feliciano's not here. Mr. Willingham,
Yes.
Mr. Collmore, and Miss Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. The meeting adjourned at 8:17 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. Bye-bye.